Hi everyone, Matthew DeSantis here with NYRA Bets, here with another Travers Spotlight video, and this one is on the other Chad Brown. That's right, Unmatched Wisdom is who we'll be talking about today. But before we get to him, make sure to press that like button here on the video and subscribe to our NYRA Bets YouTube channel, where we have race previews, full card analyses, Travers Spotlights videos like this one, handicapping and betting tutorials for new and improving players, as well as live streams of horse racing during the week. So a lot of great content for you, whether it's about New York or tracks across the country, we got you covered. All right, well, let's talk about Unmatched Wisdom, the other Chad Brown horse in this race. I think a lot of people maybe unfairly assume Unmatched Wisdom is simply in this race to help Sierra Leone, because both horses are trained by Chad Brown, and you have Unmatched Wisdom, who likes to be a very forwardly placed horse, might press the pace a little bit, as opposed to Sierra Leone, who's a deep closer, who is going to benefit from the stronger pace. But listen, I don't think you need Unmatched Wisdom in this race to ensure a really strong pace. This is a horse that would go along with Fierceness and Dornick and Torpedo Anna and Batten Down. There's already ample speed in this race for a horse like Sierra Leone to close into potentially. He's in here for his own merits. Perfect 3 for 3 in his racing career, coming off a win in the Curlin. Like I said, very impressive horse for Chad Brown. So let's learn a little bit more about this son of Cairo Prince, trained by Chad Brown. Like I said, his headliner is Sierra Leone, the 7-2, third, I guess technically fourth choice on the morning line, behind Torpedo Anna, Fierceness, who are both 3-1, and Dornick, your morning line favorite, at 5-2. But Sierra Leone, loads of talent, and he's going to want to come running late. So like I said, that's why I think a lot of people assume, Unmatched Wisdom is just in this race to help Sierra Leone. And I don't think it's that simple at all. I think he's in this race because Chad Brown really likes this horse. Jockeyed by Irad Ortiz Jr. You got to take everything Irad rides seriously. He's going to give this horse an aggressive ride, a smart ride. Like I said, the Cairo Prince sire, Dam, Glide On By, an interesting mix here. A horse that is going to be stretching out to 1.25 miles the first time, but has really shown no ill effects going that 9 furlong distance the last couple of times out. As I mentioned, a lightly raced horse. Only 3 career starts, all victories, all 90-plus Beyer speed figures, 98 in debut, 93, and then another 98 in the Curlin. This is a horse that, as my dad would say, has the big PO. What's the big PO? Potential. That's what you see out of a horse like this. And that's why you're getting a price, because this is a big step up in class. This is going to be a massive test, but he's passed every test so far, winning in debut, winning against Allowance Company, winning a stakes race. He's really, like I said, taking that next step on Saturday in his first graded stakes, and a grade 1 at that. But let me tell you something. This is a horse that Chad Brown was telling people about even before the Curlin Stakes. One of the things that I get to do up here in New York and up here in Saratoga is I get to talk to a lot of local media who cover the track on a daily basis. And they get to interview a lot of different trainers. And one of the gentlemen told me, he said, listen, I talked to Chad, and he told me this weeks ago before the Curlin. He goes, I was talking to Chad about Sierra Leone and the Travers, and Chad stopped him and said, don't forget about Unmatched Wisdom. He might end up being my Travers horse. He's that confident in Unmatched Wisdom. He really thinks that highly of this horse. And so I think that's something you have to keep in mind. This horse earned his right into this race based off that victory in the Curlin. Absolutely justified continuing to step up in class here. And I think he's a lot more than just a rabbit in this race. Now, could he get burned out by the pace up front? Absolutely. But I think he has a chance to potentially surprise at a price. So let's dive into the pedigree a little bit. And there's not necessarily a lot to look at. I mean, he was a relatively average sale for a promising colt, $460,000, not exactly, not Gun Runner, $2.3 million, not Torpedo Anna, $40,000, kind of in the middle there compared to the rest of the crop and the rest of this field. But this is a horse that has very good early speed. And I know it says Flavian Pratt here, but it's going to be Irad Ortiz Jr., who's obviously up on the ride. Pratt had ridden this horse every time out leading up to this race. Now Irad taking over, as of course Flavian Pratt stays on Sierra Leone. But like I said, Chad Brown really high on this horse. And look at these running lines. This is a horse that has shown some ability to sit off the pace. Okay. Yes, he won the Curlin gate to wire fashion and was pressed for some pretty strong fractions that day by a long shot, Qatari Vizcaya. And ran some pretty legitimate fractions early, went 48-1 basically to the half and 112-3 to the 6 furlongs, going that mile and an eighth. But, also ran some strong fractions the race before that down at Belmont at Big A and went 111-3 to the 6 furlong mark. So it's a horse that can run some pretty good figures and can run behind some pace and can stalk and has the ability to rate just a little bit, at least off the pace, doesn't need the lead to be successful, seems to enjoy the distance. But, one of the things you'll notice is that final margin of victory last time out was only a length over Corporate Power, who, of course, is also going to be in the field for Saturday at the Travers. And so you do wonder, maybe a mile and an eighth is maybe the max, maybe a mile and a quarter might be a little too far for a horse like this. We just have to wait and see. But he doesn't need the lead, and he can rate off the pace. Now, you can also notice he's not faced the biggest fields. He faced 8 in debut, doing 1 turn at Belmont at Aqueduct, and that was over a muddy track going a mile. Drew the outside post that day, kind of had the ideal slot, and hasn't necessarily faced great company in that maiden special weight and allowance race. I think the Curlin Stakes was a good test. I think Corporate Power is actually a really good horse. And so that's, I think, a legitimate test to have. But those first 2 races didn't exactly yield massive fields or strong fields in this regard. Now you're going up against 7 other horses who are all very legitimate entries in this race. Could be a little bit more than what he's capable of doing. But again, he's done nothing but improve. 98, 93, 99 now out of that Curlin, coming off a career best buyer speed figure. So could he have another level to get to? I think absolutely. The concern is, what's the trip for him? I think that is a legitimate question that you have to ask in this spot, because you know that Fierceness and Dornick are going to send from the outside. And Dornick needs the lead. Fierceness likes to sit that second stalking trip a lot of times. And those two will be very intent to be 1-2 going into the first turn. Now that puts a big onus on Irad Ortiz Jr. on Unmatched Wisdom to go, do we go? Do we really try to send? Do we have that intentionality? Do we try to steal the spot that maybe Torpedo Anna wants, that kind of inside pocket trip in the 3-hole? Is she faster to that spot than he is? Those are some questions to answer. And then you got to worry about batting down too. With Junior Alvarado aboard, he's going to want to send. There's some intentionality there as well. And I think that that's something that can't be underscored enough. There's a big difference between going, this horse is faster than that horse. If you just said, Matthew, who's faster? Dornick, Unmatched Wisdom, Fierceness, or batten down? I would go Dornick and Fierceness are faster. Yes, but there is intentionality potentially behind Unmatched Wisdom and batten down. Those horses might need to press the pace, make it more difficult for Dornick and Fierceness to get into their preferred positions because they're drawing to the inside. So, he's a horse that could sit a couple of different trips depending on how things go. I have a hard time thinking Irad's going to get to the front. That would seem like a really tall task. But I think trying to carve out a trip, maybe you're sitting third, like a co-third next to Torpedo Anna with Dornick and Fierceness up front, and you kind of get first crack. His running lines would suggest that he could at least handle that type of a trip. But I think any further back than third, there's really, now you're in deep water and you're in uncharted territory with what he might be capable of doing in this spot. So something to keep in mind with Unmatched Wisdom, a very talented horse, but again, one that's on the come up, but really trying things for the first time here in terms of a grade 1 and the way the trip is going to work out. Now, one of the things that, I do want to also kind of dispel is, again, this idea I started off with, that somehow he's a rabbit in this race. I think he's a lot more than that. Now, will he press the pace? Sure. But like I said, without him in the race, you still had 4 horses that all want to be very forward. Okay. Fierceness, Dornick, Torpedo Anna, and batten down all want to be forward. So, yes, a fifth horse, sure, that adds to the pace, absolutely. But it's not as if this was a race with lone speed and you go, man, you really need somebody in there to press that pace to set things up for my deep closer, Sierra Leone. You already had plenty of pace in this race. I think that's why I accept Chad's language and I accept his word when he says this is a legitimate Travers horse. I agree that it is. You know, we've seen horses come out of the Curlin and go on to win the Travers Stakes, so it's not historically necessarily uncommon at all. And again, the biggest question is, what trip is Irad Ortiz going to work out? And it's interesting. I don't know, as much as I think he's a legitimate horse in this race, I think he absolutely deserves to be there, and I don't think he's being entered simply as a pace presence. I don't know if I love his chances in this race. I know some people who I have a lot of respect for who really like him in this spot and think that he could be the horse that really surprises. I just don't know, because I think he may get shuffled further back than he may want to be. And I don't know if he wants 1.25 miles based upon what we saw in that Curlin. Yes, he had that race pretty much so won, but Corporate Power was making up some ground on him at the end. And again, that extra furlong, 2 furlongs, going 1.25 miles now on Saturday, that's going to be a big test for him. But one thing's for sure, I know he's going to get the right sort of trip with Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard. I know he's going to be aggressively ridden. He's going to be aggressively placed in terms of making sure that he gets to his spot early in the race. The question is, there's so much other speed. Is he able to really get to his spot and get comfortable in his spot? I think that's the other part of this. We can talk a lot about a horse getting to their spot, but are they comfortable in their spot? And are they still getting pressed? Are they in between horses? You know, those are all the things that don't necessarily appear on paper that, you know, might he end up behind Fierceness and Dornick, but sandwiched between a horse like Batten Down and Torpedo Anna. That might not be the most comfortable spot for him to get into. And that really could affect him just calming down a little bit on the backstretch, getting into his stride, etc. So I do think there are questions to ask about a horse like Unmatched Wisdom. He certainly is a talented horse, but I do think, like I said, there are some questions there in terms of distance, in terms of pace, and really being tested at that 1.25 miles with that potential pace situation. So listen, a lot of great stuff here on NYRA Bets YouTube. So make sure to like and subscribe. We'll have the rest of these Travers Stakes Spotlight Series videos up throughout the week. So make sure to check all of them out. All right. Until next time, friends, my name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and prosperous day at the races and reminding you that it's now post time.